It's Greenie versus Greenie in Amherst, Massachusetts. Climate change extremists are now going after each other in a bizarre battle that has pitted neighbor against neighbor. NPR looks at how the town's competing green goals of developing more solar energy and conserving natural habitats and farmlands are causing a huge rift. Check out this short clip from a recent NPR story.
It just seems really odd to me to cut down a forest to put up a solar facility.
McGowan, a lawyer and mediator, says she's not anti-solar, but she worries about losing the town's forests and farmland to new solar projects.
My concern is if you build a solar array on a farm, that's sort of taken out of production.
Then there's her neighbor down the road, Stephen Roof.
The evidence is clear, and it has been for decades. We have to stop burning fossil fuels.
Roof's an environmental science professor at Hampshire College who takes students to the Arctic to see the effects of global warming. He worries fears about conserving farms and forests could lead Amherst to enact restrictive regulations that limit the ability to build solar and reduce emissions.
If we don't turn to renewable energy and stop burning fossil fuels, in 10 or 15 years, our ecosystems are going to be ravaged from climate change.
On the one hand, environmental activists fear solar farms built on the town's forests could cause erosion and contaminate drinking water supplies. In the nearby town of Williamsburg, Massachusetts, a solar developer paid more than $1 million to settle allegations that it damaged local wetlands and polluted part of a river when constructing a solar project in 2018.
Joining me now is Joe Trotter. He is the director of the Energy, Environment, and Agriculture Task Force at the American Legislative Exchange Council, also known as ALEC. ALEC is by far the most effective think tank focused on state solutions. Their guiding principles are limited government, free markets, and federalism. So, Joe, as a longtime policy expert, can you give us some sense of how large an area a solar farm would need to be to provide all of the energy for a city the size of Amherst, Massachusetts?
Solar farms would have to be huge, especially in the northern areas, and they would have to be hundreds, if not thousands, of acres large. It's a lot of space that gets taken up. It's got to be exposed to the sky, so it's not like it's vertical. It's all horizontally located on the ground or on top of buildings, but it takes up, for the size of Amherst, probably over 1,000 acres.
Some of the neighbors are saying, well, we wouldn't need to destroy natural habitats and farmland. We could place these solar panels on already developed lands, such as parking lots or rooftops. Is that a viable option?
It is for a lot of their energy needs, but probably not all of them. And when you're adding something to the top of structures, it adds weight to it. It has the potential to use a fair amount, but not necessarily all the energy needs. You are probably going to have to look to farmland and places outside of urban areas.
Well, if we were to develop solar panels enough to replace all of the energy that the United States now gets from fossil fuels, can you give us the sense of kind of how much of our country would be built up with these solar panel farms, what that would look like?
At its current efficiency, probably between a quarter and half of all land in the United States would have to be covered by solar panels. It's just not feasible to use solar panels as the only solution. Part of that is also solar panels, when the sun is shining, it's the middle of the summer, days are long, the weather's great. Solar panels are very efficient for all things considered. However, it rains. It isn't always summer. In northern areas like Massachusetts, you get fog layers, you get snowstorms, you get the leaves falling down during the fall. Anything that winds up obstructing the view of the solar panel is going to wind up impacting efficiency, and you're going to wind up needing more in order to cover sort of the peak load during high times. And a lot of that is going to be during the winter. You've got this whole push towards electrification, especially in Massachusetts. It's something they're trying to do to say basically, oh, we can't have natural gas hookups, which heat homes, deal with water heaters, things like that. So we're pushing more of that to the grid in terms of demand. As that all gets pushed to the grid, you're going to need more generation capacity. And solar panels aren't going to be able to keep up with that, especially in the northern climates.
So is this an issue that ALEC is looking at in terms of policy solutions? I know ALEC produces model policy that states then share to address common problems.
We are, and it's definitely a conversation that we're having right now, and it looks like we're going to be having a big conversation about it at our annual meeting. But it's a question that's gone on for a while now. But before I was even at ALEC, uh, in the Montgomery County area of Maryland, they had something known as the Agriculture Preserve, and that is land that was set aside for non-commercial development, only farms, things like that. It's known as the lungs of DC because plants wind up filtering carbon dioxide and other things out of the atmosphere. Plants create oxygen, and somebody had the bright idea to say, well, we should turn the agriculture preserve into we should allow the farmers there to take their farmland and turn it into power generation by putting solar in. And the way it was written, you've got this prime farmland that not only produces oxygen but food for the DC area. And the county said, hey, we're gonna basically provide incentives for you to go ahead and put a solar farm in instead. And there was outcry from both sides. Some people heralded it as great, a source of revenue generation. But at the same time, we need plants to survive. It's a symbiotic part of our natural environment. We rely on plants to give us the oxygen and food. The plants rely on us to give them carbon dioxide and essentially maintain these healthy natural spaces. It's a debate that happened. It's an issue that I worked on, and we're seeing it now all across the states. So it's definitely a conversation we're having.
Thank you, Joe. That's Joe Trotter from the American Legislative Exchange Council.
This debate illustrates just how important good public policy is. We can't make policy based on wishful thinking. Solar power, or at least our ability to harness it now, is just not a reliable energy source. At Americans for Limited Government, we call on our policymakers to make energy policy based on science, not pie in the sky ideas. Please like and share this video and subscribe to Americans for Limited Government on YouTube and Rumble.